For decades, people argued about whether so-called snuff films were even real. The idea existed everywhere: movies, internet forums, urban legends, stories about hidden recordings supposedly showing real killings made for profit. And despite years of rumors, nobody could ever fully prove one existed. There had been filmed murders before, some uploaded online, others recorded privately, but none clearly matched the definition people kept returning to over and over again: a real killing, deliberately filmed and sold commercially. Then in 2025, something appeared online that immediately disturbed even experienced internet users. At first, it spread quietly through Telegram and the dark web. Most people never saw it. Others refused to believe it was real. But the people who did watch it became obsessed with one question: where had this footage actually come from? Because hidden throughout the videos were dozens of tiny details: floor tiles, accents, window frames, normal objects sitting on shelves. And the deeper investigators looked, the stranger the case became. What started as an anonymous video buried deep in hidden corners of the internet would eventually lead investigators toward a government official in northern Vietnam. And according to police, thousands of strangers online may have helped identify both the victim and the alleged killer before authorities ever publicly explained what happened. Today we're going to be discussing the case that became known online as the Vietnamese Butcher. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I'm going to make this one super quick, but thank you so much to all of the channel members. I'm aiming for 300 channel members by the end of May, and we are now at 298, which is so close, and just thank you so much. You truly are allowing this channel to keep on going. Now for today's silly little question. If you could take a pill that would make you live to be 200 years old, would you take it? Let me know down in the comments. And now, on with this video, and just another warning, it is a disturbing one. Here we go. The idea of a commercially distributed murder recording has existed for decades. By the 1970s and 80s, the term snuff film had already become part of pop culture. People spoke about secret tapes supposedly being sold underground. Films and documentaries referenced them constantly. The internet only made the mythology larger. But despite the panic and rumors, researchers, journalists, and law enforcement repeatedly argued that genuine commercially produced murder recordings had never truly been verified. I mean, there had been filmed killings before. In 2001, German cannibal Armin Meyers recorded the killing of a consenting victim. In 2012, Luca Magnotta uploaded a filmed murder online, which triggered an international manhunt. Terror organizations and cartels had also released horrific execution footage for propaganda purposes, but those cases still did not fully match the classic snuff definition people debated online for years. The key distinction was commercial intent. The idea that somebody intentionally recorded a real killing specifically to sell the footage itself. That was what made the 2025 Vietnam case so unusual. Some reports claimed access to the footage cost around $100 and a longer version was later allegedly purchased for around $600. That detail changed the way many people viewed the case. Suddenly, internet investigators were no longer looking at a shocking video in isolation. They were looking at something that appeared organized, planned, packaged, and potentially monetized. The footage itself quickly became secondary to a far stranger question. If somebody really had created this material to share for profit, why would they have allowed so many identifying details to remain visible in the background? Although the case would not become internationally known until much later, investigators believe the footage had already been circulating privately for months. The earliest reports placed the first sales sometime in February 2025. At that stage, the material was mostly confined to hidden Telegram groups, dark web communities, and niche forums dedicated to extreme content. Most ordinary internet users had no idea it existed. That changed during the summer. In late July 2025, clips and screenshots connected to the case began leaking onto wider platforms. The footage became known online as the Vietnamese butcher. Even people accustomed to disturbing internet material immediately noticed something unusual about it. The recording appeared very structured, even though the content was so insane. There were multiple camera angles, different shots, careful positioning. Some versions reportedly included what appeared to be a rehearsal involving the same two individuals before the killing itself. That detail deeply unsettled investigators online. According to reports from Vice and later international coverage, the footage showed a man with no clothes, lying on the floor of a tiled room, with his head positioned on a cutting board while another individual stood nearby holding a cleaver. Investigators stated that the victim appeared conscious and, more shockingly, compliant throughout much of the recording. At a certain point, the second individual struck the victim multiple times with the sharp implement, resulting in his time coming to an end. The later sections of the footage allegedly showed the body being dismantled. Some online users also claimed the videos included images suggesting that some of the parts that were removed had later been cooked. However, those specific claims were never publicly confirmed by Vietnamese police and remain unverified. Many internet sleuths began treating the recordings less like random violence and more like something deliberately produced, perhaps for sale and distribution. This was extremely methodical and not at all spontaneous. But while many people focused entirely on the horror of the footage, others became fixated on the environment surrounding it. The room itself became the real evidence. Internet investigators began freezing frames and comparing tiny details in the background, the floor tiles and the wall colors, the layout of the bathroom, things like cleaning products, kitchen items, window frames, even the style of chopsticks visible in later images. People started attempting to narrow down entire regions of Vietnam using nothing more than construction materials and accents heard in the footage. Some investigators believe the room resembled buildings commonly found near the China-Vietnam border. Others thought the details pointed toward northern Vietnam more specifically. At this stage, nobody publicly knew the identities of either person in the videos. The victim's face was visible. The other individual concealed their identity behind masks and careful camera angles. The internet knew there was a chance that the victim could be identified, but the person behind the camera still seemed invisible. Then another discovery changed everything. Some online investigators began uncovering traces of a man whose internet history appeared disturbingly close to the details seen in the videos. The first major breakthrough did not come from the police. It came from internet sleuths attempting to identify the victim themselves, because although the footage concealed the identity of the second person, the victim's face was there to be seen. Investigators across Facebook groups, Telegram channels, Reddit, and Vietnamese forums began comparing screenshots against social media accounts and archived online profiles. Eventually, many of them arrived at the same conclusion. The victim was likely a 36-year-old man named Win Swan Dat. Dat had reportedly spent years moving through obscure corners of the internet, connected to extreme communities. According to online investigators, he had used aliases associated with fantasies surrounding the act of removing heads, and had participated in discussions involving violent and extreme themes. Some claimed he had openly expressed a desire to end his time in a very specific way. Others uncovered screenshots allegedly showing Dat asking somebody to translate a manga called Applicant for Death into Vietnamese. Investigators became interested in that manga because parts of its story appeared disturbingly similar to the circumstances surrounding Dat's demise. But even as these discoveries spread online, there was still a major problem. Very little of this information had been officially confirmed. And as more people joined the investigation, rumors started mixing together with real evidence. Some users claimed the case involved cannibalism. Others claimed organized underground networks were connected to the recordings. More extreme theories spread rapidly across social media. Vietnamese authorities would later warn that large amounts of false information had begun circulating alongside genuine evidence. Still, certain details about Dat did appear to line up consistently across multiple sources. Neighbors later described him as isolated. Reports suggested he had spent years away from close family members. His father had died years earlier. His mother reportedly struggled with mental illness. He worked various labor jobs and as a fishmonger in Hanoi before disappearing. And then there was another detail investigators found difficult to ignore. After Dat vanished, somebody appeared to take control of his Facebook account. That discovery shifted attention toward a new possibility. The killer may not simply have recorded what he did. He may also have been quietly watching the investigation unfold in real time from the anonymity of the internet. Once internet investigators believed they had identified the victim, the focus shifted entirely toward the masked figure seen in the videos. At first, the search seemed almost impossible. The individual had concealed most identifiable features. Their face was hidden. The footage was dark, and many of the clips circulating online were heavily compressed after repeated uploads. But the internet had already decided this was no longer just a disturbing video. People began analyzing every visible frame in obsessive detail. Some focused on the person's body shape and posture. Others studied visible tattoos and any markings on the skin. Investigators compared regional Vietnamese accents heard briefly in the recordings. Others examined the layout of the building itself. One of the biggest breakthroughs reportedly came from analyzing the room where the killing occurred. Online investigators compared the tiles, walls, windows, sinks, and surrounding architecture against publicly visible buildings and government facilities across northern Vietnam. At one point, suspicion briefly fell on another individual connected to niche online communities. That person, of course, denied involvement. Attention then eventually shifted elsewhere, somewhere nobody suspected. Then, during mid-November 2025, a major development appeared online. An anonymous user released what became known as the 88-page document. The file spread rapidly across Vietnamese social media. Inside were screenshots, timeline reconstructions, scene comparisons, alleged message logs, body feature comparisons, and extensive analysis linking the footage to a specific man. His name was Duan Van Sang. Sang was not some obscure internet figure. He was a 57-year-old government official working as deputy head of Market Management Team No. 4 in Lang Son Province. According to the document, investigators believe the crime had actually occurred inside the headquarters, connected to Sang's workplace. The report analyzed everything from wall colors to room dimensions. It compared physical characteristics seen in the footage to photographs of Sang. It also attempted to connect the two men through years of online interaction. The document exploded across Vietnamese internet communities almost immediately, and as more people read it, public pressure on the authorities intensified. Because by this stage, many internet users believed they already knew both the victim and the alleged killer. The only remaining question was whether police would publicly act on it. In October 2025, Vietnam's Ministry of Public Security stated that an official investigation had begun after authorities monitored activity surrounding the case online. But it was not until late November that events accelerated dramatically. On November 28, 2025, the Lang Son Provincial Police formally initiated a murder case. Police searched Duan Van Sang's residence, along with locations connected to Market Management Team No. 4. Investigators also returned to the old headquarters building that online investigators had focused on for weeks. According to reports, officers used specialized equipment to search drains and septic systems for additional evidence. Residents living nearby later described the location as a deteriorating compound surrounded by walls and fencing near a local market. Some neighbors recalled smelling a strange odor months earlier, during the beginning of 2025. Others remembered an unusual increase in flies around the property. At the time, none of them understood why. On November 29th, authorities arrested Sang on murder charges. Days later, police publicly confirmed the arrest. According to official statements, Sang admitted he had met Win Swan Dat through social media years earlier. Police stated that Dat came to the office building on January 25, 2025, during the Lunar New Year holiday period. Authorities allege Sang ended him there, filmed the crime, attempted to destroy evidence, and later disposed of the body. Police now also allege that footage connected to the killing had later been sold online. But despite the arrest, investigators still withheld major details from the public. Authorities never publicly confirmed many of the more extreme rumors spreading online. Claims involving cannibalism remained unverified. Police also warned the public not to share violent footage, screenshots, or investigation documents connected to the case. Officials stated that some online files contained malware and misinformation. Others risked interfering with the ongoing investigation itself. And in a strange twist, the case had now become larger than the crime alone. Because by the end of 2025, many people believed this was one of the first major murder investigations, where thousands of internet users had effectively participated alongside police in real time. Long before police publicly announced an arrest, the internet had already begun building its own version of the case. That was what made the Vietnamese butcher investigation feel different from almost every major crime story that came before it. As the footage spread online, so did the investigation being undertaken by online sleuths. Thousands of strangers across multiple countries began analyzing fragments of evidence together in real time. Some worked through translations, others archived disappearing posts before they could be deleted. Some compared architecture and regional dialects. Others searched through years of social media history, looking for connections between the victim and possible suspects. Entire communities formed around solving the mystery. For months, the line between investigation, obsession, and internet spectacle became increasingly blurred. And eventually, Vietnamese authorities themselves acknowledged that online activity had played a role in solving the case. Several international media outlets later highlighted the unusually large contribution made by citizen investigators. But the case also exposed the darker side of internet-led investigations. False information spread constantly and quickly. People were wrongly accused, and graphic material circulated far beyond the hidden communities where it first appeared. Some users treated the case like entertainment, rather than a real homicide investigation. Authorities later warned that downloading or sharing certain files could expose users to malware, misinformation, or criminal penalties. 2 individuals were eventually charged for spreading false information connected to the case. Legal experts in Vietnam also warned that uncontrolled online investigations can interfere with legitimate police work and contaminate evidence. Me, though, I'm not so sure this case would have been solved without the internet stepping in. Remember, I'm releasing daily true crime and dark content, so make sure you interact with this video to make sure you get recommended more of my stuff. Please do be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.